What up, and greetings! I'm back again with another review from Rhastakhan's Rumble, this time with Shaman. They're getting a lot of spell synergy cards, some stuff that plays alongside with totems, as well as a few elemental cards here and there. Also some overload synergy, which kind of gives me hope that there's something we might be getting more of in upcoming expansions. Maybe something that unlocks mana crystals in standard again. Either way, there's a lot of cards that might play well with Hagatha and Shadowwork. So that's probably not going away anytime soon, and not so many cards for aggro decks, and a couple of cards that are actually going to be quite good in wild, so I'm looking forward to that. Without further ado, let's get straight into the review. First card is Box-Slosher. Actually, I had to look this card up again if I got the name right. I was like Box-Slasher or Bag-Slasher or Box-Slosher. Anyway, it's a 3 mana free battle cry. Return a friendly minion to your hand and give it +2/+2. I don't think it's too great, it's just very slow, kind of greedy, even though it can give you extra value over time and acts as a kind of brewmaster on free mana that adds additional stats. You usually want to put more on board. That's why Fungalments are so good, rather than be returning stuff to your hand unless it's for a specific purpose or your deck is kind of slowish. And the only way that I can see this being played is in a control or value trade oriented type of deck where you can put the minion back on board on full health, or with Kalaset that you can replay if it survives, which is just normally never does, so I don't think this card is going to be that good. Second card is a spell for 1 mana, Totemic Smash. Deal 2 damage, overkill, summon a basic totem. This card is just too weak, doesn't do enough to see any real play in my opinion. It has the benefit of being able to go face over something like a Zap. If it does overkill a minion and summon a totem, in theory you're getting about a 2.5 mana worth of value, which is not bad, but you have to remember the totems are just not that good. It might be good in Wild Malygos Shaman though, because you can get a tick from Emperor and it's just gonna put it on 0. So your Malygos is gonna make it beautiful 7 for 0 mana. Anyway, next is a spell as well, Big Bad Voodoo. For 2 mana, give a friendly minion Death Rattle, summon a random minion that costs 1 more. This is kind of a evolve effect, but as a Death Rattle, which is I think the first we've ever had. Usually when it was on a card, it would be a Battle Cry and act as an immediate one. Again, I wouldn't suspect this would be too strong. Maybe if it was for all minions, but for 1 minion and you don't even get the effect immediately unless you like trade straight away, I don't think it's really enough for Evolve Shaman to come back into the meta. Actually, maybe if you pair it up with Umbra and then you get the Death Rattle first time and then you get it second time once the minion dies, it's not that bad, but that's the only real combo that I can think of from the top of my head. So pretty poor, to be honest. Next one is a new weapon called Lickim. 2 mana weapon, 1 free, has +2 attack while you have overloaded mana crystals. So somehow reminiscence to Spirit Claws, and I'm glad that they didn't repeat the same mistake and actually priced it on 2 mana straight away rather than 1 mana and then change it later like with Spirit Claws, because the prerequisite was just too easy to fulfill. And that gives me hope seeing this card and another few cards that there might be more overload synergy coming back into standard, which I always like. It's always good to have a bit of the good old overload synergy in standard. Next one is a spell called Haunting Visions. 3 mana, the next spell you cast costs 3 less and you discover a spell. So you kind of have to pre-plan it, because after you discover a spell from this spell, the next spell is going to be 3 less, so something like a prep. So you count this, you play this, you discover a spell, and then you prep straight after. Which is okay because it's in 1 card, and I think people have been underestimating this card quite a bit. If you apply that 3 mana discount, you can either, you know, discount something like a Volcano, and it's pretty good. I mean, it depends whether you'd rather play Farsight or this in a slower type of deck, or maybe both. But Spell Shaman is definitely getting quite interesting card, especially for wild. Next card is also a spell. It's called Reign of Toad. 6 mana, summon free, 2/4 toads with Taunt, overload 3 mana. So I've seen a lot of different opinions on this card. Some people are calling it overpowered and some are calling it trash. It was compared to Spreading Plague and also Phantom Militia because it's 2/4 tones, right? You basically prepay for it on turn 6 with overload. I think for slower control decks we might see this card being included, especially if they will release a card that unlocks your mana crystals like we had with Lava Shock or Eternal Sentinel in the past. And even aggro decks might be looking at this in the future because they don't really mind sacrificing, you know, some mana later on if they gain enough of an advantage on board early on. Something that gets boosted with Overloaded Mana Crystal plus this plus late game, you know, and you might start having a deck that depends on Overload and is actually quite powerful. So it's good that it's not as strong as Spreading Plague, because that card, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Next one is Wardbringer. Wardbringer, 1 mana 2/1, Battlecry. If you play 2 spells this turn, deal 2 damage. This card is also quite awful. On 1 mana, it has some potential to fit into a turn where you could play 2 spells, but I wouldn't say that it guarantees a spot in those decks. We're usually trying to get more value than just 2 damage and trade 1 for 1, because they will just die to a ping or a hero power on the next turn anyway, and will in the end just trade 1 for 1, so pretty bad. Next card is the first legendary, called Kragwa the Frog. 6 mana 4/6, Battlecry, return all spells you've played last turn to your hand. So it's the same stats as Halazil the Ascended was back in the day, but it costs 1 more mana, and the effect by itself is quite strong, but suffers similar drawback to you know, play an elemental the turn before. You might play a bunch of spells that turn, say a double Healing Rain and a Rockbiter weapon, and then the next turn you might play this, but you might also want to play something like a Volcano instead. But you have to play the Kragwa, even though it doesn't really do anything in that turn. It doesn't have a taunt or something. You might replay the Healing Rain, but it might be too late, because the only thing that saves you is a Volcano, so you don't actually get the spells back. And because of that, I think that it's a bit too wonky and just not strong enough in order to justify a spot in a deck. Next card is the Spirit card for Shaman, called Spirit of the Frog. 3 mana, still for 1 turn. Whenever you cast a spell, draw a spell from your deck that costs 1 more. This can have some decent value in doing like a chain of spells, and next turn returning to your hand with, you know, the legendary card that we spoke about earlier. Once again, is this being done like once a game relevant enough for it to guarantee, you know, 3 potential slots in your deck? You might not have the spell to start the chain, well, unless you got Hagatha, where usually you do have enough spells, so this might be playing into your late game kind of scenario. But placing 3 cards just to enable you to return a few spells into your hand, and you also bring yourself kind of closer to fatigue. Also, you could say, yeah, but I'm moving myself closer to Shadowwork combo. I mean, I'm not too hopeful for the combination of those 2 cards to work in Shadowwork deck, but I might be surprised, who knows. And the last one is the second legendary awesome card called Zentimo, 3 mana 1/3. Whenever you target minion with a spell, also target adjacent ones. So the most interesting we say for the last, this card I think can have, you know, a massive impact, because it's good in a losing situation where you can cast like this and a triple hex for 7 mana. You know, remove like Void Lords or something really nasty from the board. You can use it offensively with Rockbiter, with Wind Fury, and because it's so versatile, it's on a similar power level, in my opinion, to the War Druid Lottie that we spoke about in the Druid review. And I think that it will find a way into many Shaman decks in the future. And that's it. That's it for the Shaman cards. What do you think about them? Let me know in the comment section below. Guys, if you enjoy these reviews, just leave me that thumbs up, because it helps quite a bit. And I'll see you at the next one. Bye and take care.